Read.
Assembly Bill 998 by Assemblymember Wagner, an act relating to libel.
Mr. Wagner, you may again open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and in my efforts to get all the good stuff out of the way early, I bring to you today AB 998. This updates California's libel retraction statute to respond to a appellate court decision from last year. As it stands currently, you can demand that a newspaper or other publication retract a libelous statement before you're permitted to bring a lawsuit. That does not apply to news sources that are online. And what the court said is the statute doesn't apply to news sources online. It's the job of the legislature to close that loophole. AB 998 closes the loophole by providing to online news services the same libel, First Amendment libel protection that exists for print publications, and I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 67, no 0. Measure passes. File item 29 passed and retained. Moving to file item 30, that's AB 51. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 51 by Assemblymember Quirk and others, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Quirk, you may open.
Thank you, Speaker and members. Lane splitting is prohibited in nearly every state in the country except California, where the practice is neither legal nor illegal. There's simply the law is silent on it. AB 51 will make lane splitting legal and provide regulations to ensure that it is done safely. There are many benefits to lane splitting. When a motorcyclist doesn't take up a space in traffic, it reduces traffic congestion. And it also, when there's traffic congestion, oftentimes the motorists don't see the motorcyclists, and there's a danger of being rear-ended. It is actually safer for them to lane split if they follow the proper practices. In particular, there's a study that's just been done at UC Berkeley, which shows that as long as you're not traveling faster than 15 miles an hour more than the traffic, or that you yourself are not going more than 50 miles an hour yourself as a motorcyclist, that this can be done safely and for both the motorist and the motorcyclists. This also gives guidelines to the Highway Patrol. I think we've all seen motorcycling splitting being done unsafely at 70 miles an hour, going from lane to lane, not safe for anyone. So this gives them guidelines so that they can regulate the practice. AB 51 has had strong bipartisan support, and I will ask my joint author, the member from Palmdale, to say more.
Thank you, Mr. Quirk. Mr. Lackey, you are recognized.
Yes, Chair and colleagues, I proudly stand in support as a joint author in this good sense measure. I will tell you that right now, 20 years with the California Highway Patrol, I saw my share of unfortunate circumstances. Motorcyclists take on a pretty significant risk with other traffic and the lack of protection that they are afforded by being on a two-wheeled vehicle. However, they should be afforded the opportunity to pass through and actually do what is called lane splitting. But the parameters and the ambiguity provides an unsafe atmosphere for them. And I believe that this researched information will allow enhanced safety for both motorists who are not motorcyclists and the motorcyclists, because it will give clear parameters that don't currently exist. And I think the nation is looking to our leadership on this issue, quite frankly. There are a number of states that are also considering this measure, and I'm proudly a co-author of this measure because it makes good sense and it'll probably save numerous lives. So I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Lackey. Seeing no further discussion or debate on this item, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 52, noes 11. Measure passes. Members, we are going to move back to motions and resolutions. Mr. Holden, you are recognized for your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to suspend Joint Rule 28.1 pertaining to the appointment of conferees to the Conference Committee on AB 93 relating to the Budget Act of 2015, notwithstanding the vote on concurrence and Senate amendments.
Ms. Waldron.
Just to clarify, it's a two-thirds vote, and we are good with it. We can support it.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Ms. Waldron, will you second that motion? Ms. Waldron seconds. Mr. Holden moves. Ms. Waldron seconds that the rules be suspended. Members, this is procedural. Clerk will open the roll. This is a 54-vote item. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 74, no 0. The joint rules are suspended. Members, back on the file. File item 31 is passed and retained. Moving to file item 32, that's AB 1045. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1045 by Assemblymember Irwin and others, enacted relating to solid waste.
Ms. Irwin, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1045 requires Cal EPA, Cal Recycle, and California Food and Agricultural Department to work together to establish a statewide policy to promote the use of compost. This bill also requires Cal EPA, the State Water Board, and the Air Resources Board to work together to coordinate and streamline regulations. The state has numerous goals relating to the creation and use of compost, including diverting waste from landfills to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, sequestering carbon, and reducing water consumption. To reach these state policy goals, a more coordinated effort is needed among state entities to coordinate the regulations associated with the production of compost. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 57, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 33, that's AB 69. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 69 by Assemblymember Rodriguez and others, enacted relating to peace officers.
Mr. Rodriguez, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 69 seeks to provide guidelines for developing and implementing policies and procedures for downloading and storing data from body-worn cameras. Many law enforcement departments currently using body-worn cameras have formal policies covering some key issues, such as when to record and how long to retain recordings. However, these policies will likely need to evolve as departments develop better understandings of how body-worn cameras affect policing practices on the ground. AB 69 includes recommendations to ensure the security, integrity, and reliability of the data downloaded and stored. This bill has support on both sides. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 70, no 0. Measure passes. File items 34 through 36, passed and retained. File item 37, that's AB 498. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 498 by Assemblymember Levine, enacted relating to fish and wildlife.
Mr. Levine, you may open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. AB 498 establishes a state policy to protect wildlife corridors and habitat strongholds. The amendments taken last Friday remove all opposition to the bill. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, Mr. Daly, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, I must rise in opposition to this bill. Counties have the general plan. I come from an area where we have a lot of wildlife, and they already put that in there. I think this bill is unnecessary and will add one more layer of regulation, and I urge a no vote on this bill.
Seeing no additional debate, Mr. Levine, you may close.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. The amendments taken on the floor last Friday removed all opposition to the bill. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 45, noes 22. Measure passes. File items 38 through 43 Pass and retain. Moving to file item 44. That's AB 1532. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1532 by the Committee on Local Government, an act relating to local government.
Mr. Mainshine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'd like to present AB 1532, the Local Government Committee Omnibus Bill. It makes a number of changes to the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, which governs local agency formation commissions. This is a consensus bill with no opposition and bipartisan support. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mainshine. Seeing no discussion or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 75, no 0. Measure passes. File item 45. That's AB 349. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 349 by Assemblyman Gonzalez and others, an act relating to common interest developments and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may open.
Members, this is a common sense, simple bill. It simply states that HOAs cannot prevent homeowners from putting in artificial turf, especially in these times of drought. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 69, noes 2 on the urgency. Ayes 69, noes 2 on the bill. Measure passes. File items 46 and 47 pass and retain. We are going to take up file item 48. That's AB 1173. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1173 by Assemblyman Williams, an act relating to drinking water.
Mr. Williams, you may open.
Mr. Speaker, members, this bill clarifies the statewide certification standards required for backflow prevention device testers. Specifically, this bill would require that if a local health officer does not maintain a program for certification of backflow prevention device testers, then the testing and maintenance of a backflow prevention device may be performed by someone who has received a California-specific certification. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. See no discussion or debate. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 48, noes 20. Measure passes. File item 49. That's AB 1306 for the purpose of amendment. Clerk will read with amendments.
Assembly Bill 1306 with amendments by Assemblymember Burke.
Ms. Burke, you may open on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1306 allows certified nurse midwives to manage a full range of primary health care services for women within their existing scope of practice and without physician supervision. The amendments before you today add consumer protections to the bill and address concerns raised by the California Medical Association. I respectfully request that the amendments be adopted and that the bill be sent out to print and placed back on the file.
Ms. Waldron?
Objection. Without objection.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Bill is out to print and back on file. File items 50 and 51 pass and retain. File item 52, that's AB 1373. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1373 by Senator Santiago and others, an act relating to outdoor advertising.
Mr. Santiago, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here today to present a local district bill, AB 1373. AB 1373 would allow for the use of revenue-generating advertisement displays within a small portion of downtown Los Angeles, known as the Avenue of the Angels, and it would only do so with consent of the local city council. This is a district bill that has enjoyed bipartisan support, and I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 66, noes 4. Measure passes. File items 53 and 54 pass and retain. File item 55, AB 567. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 567 by Senator Gibson, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Gibson, you may open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. AB 567 will increase accountability and assess property values by allowing the State Board of Equalization to provide a timely and basic information to the public. Right now, the county assessors are required to make all public reassessed property values on the assessed roll. However, when a business files paperwork to trigger reassessment, the State Board of Equalization is required to keep information confidential. Want to underscore confidential, even though this information will eventually be made public by current law today. As a result, when the public calls upon the State Board of Equalization to ask about specific sales or merger, the State Board of Equalization cannot provide any information. AB 567 will allow the State Board of Equalization to disclose only the necessary paperwork as filed and triggered by the reassessment. What will be shared by AB 567 is actually less than what is required to be disclosed by the county assessor's office today. This modest bill will improve communication between the public and the State Board of Equalization and help ensure our tax laws are fairly applied to the public's benefit. Mr. Speaker, I request an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Mr. Ting, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to rise in support of AB 567. As a former assessor, I dealt with this issue very specifically. Oftentimes, when there are change of ownerships that happen, they're reported on your tax returns, which is obviously delayed for a year. That information is then transferred from the Franchise Tax Board to the BOE and doesn't get to the county assessor. It could be for almost 2 years. So that information, which is actually public information necessary for us to make sure that assessments are done properly, aren't getting to the county assessors in a timely fashion. I want to thank my colleague from Carson for his bill, because this will help increase transparency, help speed it up. It does not impact privacy at all. The information, this is public information, and it will just get to the right source in the right time. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Ting. Mr. Allen, you are recognized.
I have to rise, unfortunately, in opposition to AB 567. Very simply, according to the author, the purpose of the bill is to allow anyone who believes that a possible change in ownership has occurred to call the Board of Equalization and inquire about the ownership of a property. And after the BOE receives the inquiry and finds that this entity has not filed a certain form, the BOE can then request that entity to file the form and then evaluate whether or not a change in ownership has occurred. I know that sounds a little complex, but essentially what that means is anybody can call up the BOE and potentially harass a business. And the reason they would be doing this is potentially to get them to pay higher taxes. This opens itself to potential abuse. I do understand the thought process behind the bill, and I compliment the author for that thought process. However, I think the implementation could cause problems here in California. I urge no vote.
Seeing no further discussion or debate, I'm sorry, Mr. Wagner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just not to pile on, but the point made by my friend from Huntington Beach is absolutely accurate. You get to go and say to the BOE, hey, I think there was a change of ownership in this business. Maybe that business is a competitor of yours. Maybe that business has got some information that would otherwise appear on these forms that you'd like to dig into and find out about, maybe for your own competitive purposes, maybe for your own nefarious purposes, maybe for your own purposes of harassing the business. And no change of ownership has happened. You don't even need a good faith belief to make the allegation, as I understand the bill as it is in print, to require the form to be filed. And so now your competitor is filing forms with the BOE, public forms with the BOE. The board is now tasked with evaluating whether or not there's been a change of ownership when perhaps there's been absolutely no underlying transaction whatsoever. Why do this? You do this to harass other businesses. You do this maybe because you're trolling for a lawsuit. You do this for all sorts of reasons that rightly, as the law exists today, you can't do. So there's no evidence in the hearing that I sat through that this is a great big problem and lots of businesses are escaping change of ownership requirements. filing requirements. This is just plaintiffs' lawyers looking to troll. This is just folks looking to harass businesses because you get to make them jump through the hoops whether or not there's been a change of ownership. At the end of the day, if the BOE looks at this and says, nope, no change of ownership, you still have on record with the government information that you didn't need to put on record with the government, and you still have had the time and the expense and the trouble to go through and fill out one more form for our government. Every small business in the state has had enough of our forms. This is one more form from what is merely a fishing expedition and absolutely no explanation of the problem we're trying to solve. Let's not go there. This is an easy no vote.
All debate having ceased, Mr. Gibson, you may close.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I really respect my comments from my colleagues. Transfer of real property are recorded and already are public information. It is unclear why disclosing the basic fact of a legal entitle filed and change of ownership statement could remain confidential. This bill is sponsored by the chairman of the State Board of Equalization and enjoys support from the Los Angeles County assessors, labor groups. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 45, noes 26. Measure passes. File item 56, that's AB 402. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 402 by Assemblymember Dodd, enacting to local agency formation.
Mr. Dodd, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 402 would establish a pilot program until January 1st, 2021 for Napa, Sonoma, and San Bernardino counties that would permit their local agency formation commissions to authorize a city or district to provide new or extended services outside both its jurisdictional boundaries and its sphere of influence under specified conditions. Current law limits a city or district from extending municipal services outside its jurisdictional boundary and outside its sphere of influence only to respond to an existing public health or safety of the resident or an impending threat. However, in circumstances that don't meet the health and safety exemption, it only means to provide the service would be to annex the property into the sphere of influence. The result is the local jurisdictions may be required to extend their spheres of influence to serve an existing or planned use even when this expansion is not for a contiguous area, therefore not in the best interest of preserving agriculture and open space or efficient provision of services. AB 402 will give LAFCOs the flexibility to approve service extensions outside a sphere of influence without requiring annexations of territories that might lead, in fact, to unintended sprawl. I believe the amendments taken in the committee sufficiently narrowed this bill to address the local circumstances. The 5-year sunset will allow the legislature to determine if the provisions of the bill work well and whether there are any negative impacts. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 46, noes 22. Measure passes. File item 57, pass and retain. Moving to file item 58, that's AB 1042. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1042 by Assemblymember Cooper, enacting to professions and vocations.
Mr. Cooper, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1042 updates the definition of a proprietary private security officer to further professionalize the security guard industry and protect the general public. The bill adds examples of security officer duties to ensure individuals employed by a business such as a bar or a restaurant and who provide security services are not unlicensed. The bill has support on both sides and has no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 72, no 0. Measure passes. File item 59, AB 160. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 160 by Senator Dababneh, an act relating to criminal profiteering.
Mr. Dababneh.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 160 will stop counterfeiters from profiting from their crimes, hold them financially liable, and capture tax revenues lost as a direct result of their criminal activities. California is home to many key industries which are prime targets for organized counterfeiting and piracy. For example, the film and television industry, which provides over 190,000 direct jobs and over $17 billion in wages, loses an estimated $3.3 billion a year in piracy here in California. AB 160 will update California's revenue and tax code to bring it in line with federal law in regards to taxes collected on counterfeit goods. Additionally, this bill expands the list of offenses that can trigger forfeiture of ill-gotten gains derived from specific criminal activity to include piracy and insurance fraud. AB 160 strengthens the law to better equip the state to combat California's growing underground economy and gives the state revenue it deserves, which according to the committee analysis is estimated to be about $1.1 million a year. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Dababneh. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 72, no 0. Measure passes. File item 60, that's AB 306. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 306 by Senator Hadley and others, an act relating to school districts.
Mr. Hadley, you may open.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker and members, the goal of AB 306 is to help ensure that the children of our military families can have the right education for them. Our military children face two unusual challenges. First, they move frequently, and secondly, they often have limited choices as to where they can live. And specifically, what AB 306 does is it removes the veto of the originating school district on inter-district transfers so that their parents can seek the right public school district for their children. AB 306 has received broad bipartisan support, unanimously passing both committees it's been through. I thank my co-authors for joining me on this bill, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Jones, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. A question for the author, please.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Hadley, is this your first bill presentation on the floor?
Yes, it is.
Well, I've got to say on my own time, Mr. Speaker, I thought that Mr. Obernolte and Mr. Lackey had set the standard for the most boring bill that they could bring to the floor. And the reason I say that is both of them missed the opportunity to have questions of the author by the rest of the members here. But this bill is really boring. But there is some language in there that talks about standards. So that's why I was saying that it had set the standard for being boring and lack of questions. But there is one part of the bill I'm concerned about. And Mr. Speaker, permission to read, please.
Without objection.
The standards may include consideration of the capacity of a program, class, grade level, school facilities, and adverse financial impacts. However, these standards may not include consideration of a pupil's previous academic achievement, physical condition, proficiency in English language, family income, or any of the individual characteristics set forth in Section 200. Now, your language is very specific in some exemptions that it has, but it doesn't state the exemptions from Section 200. So could you please illuminate and state those exceptions for us this morning? Response, Mr. Speaker.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
I didn't hear the author's response to the question.
Neither did I.
Okay.
Why don't we go to Mr. Linder?
Well, let me just say I do think the bill is a good bill. Mr. Hadley is an honorable member of the Assembly. His family is a military family, as his son is serving in is currently attending the U.S. Military Academy. I ask for an aye vote. Go Army.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Linder, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question of the author, Mr. Steinhorth.
Without objection. Without objection,
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Hadley may address
Gentleman
the question.
from Rancho Cucamonga. That's okay, on his own time.
Mr. Williams, you are recognized. Members, this is support.
Question for the author.
Without objection.
Well, we know, unfortunately, that being boring doesn't stop people from getting elected. Just ask Pete Wilson or Gray Davis. Are you trying to emulate these two leaders of our respective parties in being the most boring and electable person around?
Mr. Hadley, we ask that members not refer to constitutional officers, especially by name. Mr. Hadley, you may continue.
Well, all I can say is that with respect to that particular question, I'm very proud to represent the good people of Rancho Cucamonga.
Mr. Hadley, I'll take that as your close. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 70, no 0. Measure passes. File item 61, that's AB 388. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 388 by Assemblymember Chang and others, and act relating to housing.
Ms. Chang, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I am pleased to present to you today AB 388, which is not my first bill on the floor. This is an important measure that will bring accountability, transparency, and efficiency to programs that will be funded through Proposition 41. I'm sure the members of this body are all well aware that last year's approval of Proposition 41 allocated $600 million for the purpose of providing multifamily housing to homeless or low-income veterans. Nonprofits and local governments that sponsor programs pursuant to Prop 41 will be required to follow the program guidelines adopted in February. While these guidelines include certain reporting requirements for sponsors, they do not require the reports to include data necessary to demonstrate the effectiveness of these programs. AB 388 will mandate sponsors to report information which indicates their program's level of success. And by increasing the amount of information that policymakers and stakeholders have access to, we will be able to ensure these programs are providing maximum benefits to the men and women who served our country but returned home to be confronted by hardship. Members, on Monday, we celebrated Memorial Day, a day dedicated to remembering those who made the ultimate sacrifice while serving our country. But we must also remember those who come home after serving but struggle to acclimate to civilian life. Prop 41 dedicates funds to programs that will help us show our veterans the gratitude they deserve, and AB 388 ensures that these programs are doing just that. AB 388 has received unanimous support in the Housing and Community Development Committee, the Veteran Affairs Committee, and the Appropriations Committee, and carries the support of numerous veteran groups as well as other stakeholders. With that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Wagner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question of the author.
Without objection.
Is this the first bill presentation on the floor of yours that didn't need a Democrat co-author? If I remember, you had a bill from our friend in San Jose dealing with the alternative transportation folks. That bill was obviously too heavy a lift for you alone. And I know that you're all about partisan Uber Alice. This bill, however, on your own, is apparently not too heavy a lift and a fine bill. And so I compliment you on finally getting the gumption to go for one on your own without a co-author. And I certainly hope everybody supports this bill because it's a good bill. Congratulations.
Thank you. In fact, I do have bipartisan support, bipartisan co-authors. Thank you so much. If I can remind my colleagues, this is not my first bill presentation on the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Chang. Mr. Linder, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question of the author.
Without objection.
Ling Ling, did you forget your bling bling? Sorry, the member from Diamond Bar.
Is there a point of order on the floor? Point of order withdrawn. Mr. Linder, you may continue.
Thank you. That is my question.
Seeing no discussion or further discussion or debate, Ms. Chang, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes.